Greetings, my name is Lucas. I'm 30 years old and live a tranquil life in a small town in Virginia. Simplistic might be the word to describe my existence. Professionally, I work as an HVAC technician, inhabit a humble two-bedroom dwelling, and appreciate a community where everyone still acknowledges each other. Here, people wave from their cars, lend one another tools, and are always ready to offer assistance when required. It's the sort of atmosphere that makes you feel secure and familiar, and I've always been one who is eager to contribute. I do whatever I can to aid others, whether it's transporting groceries, repairing a leaking pipe, or mowing the lawn for an elderly neighbor. Nothing extravagant, just straightforward living. The Harpers, Jeffrey and Sienna, live across the street from me. I've known them for years. They always seemed like the ideal couple. Their house was spacious and well-maintained, and their garden appeared to be plucked straight from a magazine. In contrast to being close friends, we'd exchange pleasantries, wave during holidays, and occasionally chat. The day unfolded like any other. Upon arriving home at around 5:30 p.m., I went to retrieve my toolbox to fix a wobbly kitchen cabinet hinge, only to realize that a specific wrench was missing. I could have postponed the task until the weekend, but I dislike leaving jobs incomplete. So, I decided to cross the street and ask Jeffrey if I could borrow one. As I walked up their front path, something felt amiss. The porch light was on, yet the curtains were tightly closed. I rang the doorbell and waited. No one responded. Just as I prepared to leave, the door squeaked open and there was Sienna. I stood still. Her eyes were swollen and red, mascara streaked down her cheekbones, her hair disheveled, and she wore an oversized cardigan, suggesting she hadn't given it much thought. She looked completely distraught. Dear friends, please help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Please like and subscribe to our channel. It will motivate us to make more videos like this for you. Sienna, you all right? I asked, taken aback. She attempted to compose herself, giving a brief smile that swiftly vanished. Lucas, hello? I hadn't anticipated anyone. I paused, my mind racing. Perhaps I should inquire about the wrench? Absolutely not. Such a question seemed insensitive. Forgive me, I murmured. I had been planning to ask for a wrench, but it could wait. Are you okay? Her eyes filled with tears. No, she replied softly. I truly am not. Something within me knew I couldn't just leave her like that. She seemed in need of someone, anyone, and I happened to be there. If you'd like to talk, I can stay, I offered hesitantly. Or I can go if you prefer solitude. She shook her head slowly, wiped her face, and moved away. Feel free to come inside. I nodded and entered their usually tidy home, which now felt heavy as if sorrow had seeped into the walls. The lighting was dim. A nearly empty Kleenex box sat on the coffee table, accompanied by a partly filled wine glass near an open bottle. Sienna gestured for me to sit, and I obliged cautiously, mindful of the peaceful ambiance. She sat opposite me, her hands clutched tight. Unexpectedly, she expelled a silence-shattering remark, resembling the crack of broken glass. Initially, I remained silent. My heart sank. I wouldn't have envisioned any issues between us, especially one as grave as this. I've been aware for years, she stated, her voice filled with animosity. About the infidelity, the deceit. I chose to overlook it. I hoped that I could mend things. But today, I couldn't anymore. I leaned forward and placed my forearms on my knees. I'm truly sorry, Sienna. I had no clue. She emitted a scornful chuckle and wiped another tear from her face. Nobody suspected. I maintained the facade of the devoted spouse, the flawless home, and the perfect marriage. It was all fabricated. I just didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to feel like a loser. Her words left deep wounds. Unsure of how to respond, I found solace in silence's strength. "You're not a failure," I eventually whispered. "You exhibited courage by standing up for yourself." She stared at me intently, seeming to search for belief. "You're a good man, Lucas," she whispered back softly. "I've been carrying this burden for a long time. Now that it's released, I feel empty." Impulsively, I reached out and tenderly touched her hand. "You don't have to face this alone," I said. "I'm here." She gripped my hand firmly. It was the first sign of life I'd noticed in her since we crossed paths. For what felt like hours, we sat discussing various topics: pain, betrayal, and trust. She admitted that Jeffrey had been unfaithful almost from the start. "I gave him everything," she whispered faintly. "You received nothing but lies from him," I told her firmly. "You deserve honesty," I said. "You deserve respect." A hint of relief softened her face. "Do you truly believe that?" she asked. "I mean it sincerely." The clock chimed midnight and the wine bottle neared its end. Gradually, I rose and stretched my limbs slightly. "I suppose I should leave now," I said. She guided me to the door, but paused. Her eyes locked with mine, and she whispered softly, "You don't have to go if you don't want to." It caught me off guard. Her voice was low and harsh, devoid of any romantic or seductive tone. She desired companionship rather than spending the night alone. I nodded subtly in response. "All right, I'll stay." She guided me back to the couch where I sat beside her. She leaned gently against my shoulder as if it was the only thing keeping her upright. Hours passed by quietly. Her breathing eventually became shallow, and she dozed off against me. In the dark, I remained awake, my gaze fixed on the quiet room's emptiness, sensing that the night had rearranged something between us. Morning light trickled in through half-drawn curtains. I came to realize that I hadn't stirred throughout the night. Sienna was still there, asleep on my shoulder, breathing softly and tranquilly. I moved my arm cautiously so as not to awaken her, remaining motionless, savoring the silence in the house. The remnants of the previous night hung heavy and unsaid in the atmosphere. Later, Sienna shifted next to me. Her eyes slowly opened, showing a momentary confusion. Then she seemed to recall where she was. She drew back slightly, tucking her hair behind her ear, whispering an apology. I replied softly, "There is no need for apologies. You needed someone." Sienna rose with a faint, weary smile, her eyes expressing gratitude. She headed towards the kitchen, an unexpected cleanliness prevailing given the previous night's events. She poured coffee grounds into the filter and filled the pot with water, moving quietly as if on autopilot. I stayed quiet, allowing her space without intruding. Once the coffee was ready, we sat at the small kitchen table in silence, only the ticking clock and humming refrigerator filling the void. Finally, she uttered, "I can't believe you remained here, clinging to your cup as if it were the sole source of warmth in this room." I replied, "I couldn't just leave." She shared a momentary glance into her coffee. Jeffrey would have fled. In fact, he did flee. He always left during hard times. I sank back in my chair, uncertain of what to say. "You deserve someone who stays," I eventually said, after a brief pause. "A person who stays put during hard times." She sighed heavily, shaking her head. "I'm unsure of what I deserve these days. I believed I had everything figured out. The house, the relationship, the future ahead. Now it feels like everything is shattered." I nodded slowly. At times, pieces must break apart to pave the way for something better. She offered a melancholic smile. "You sound just like my therapist." I chuckled softly. "Perhaps I've endured enough pain to feign wisdom." This statement took her aback. You always seem to," persevere together. I shrugged casually. I was once betrothed, but she broke it off 6 months before the wedding. She claimed she wasn't ready. I never thought I would recover from that. Yet life continues to pull us forward even when we aren't prepared. We sat in silence for a while, understanding each other as only two injured souls can. Once she had finished her coffee, she looked towards the exit. Fancy a walk? Let's step outside for a bit. She needed a break from this place for a bit. The cool morning breeze not harsh. We tread down tranquil residential streets, past homes and gardens that were comfortingly familiar. Strangely, no friendly waves today. It seemed like the world was granting her space. I had forgotten how invigorating fresh air could feel. Sienna murmured softly as we walked side by side. I've been lost in my own thoughts for far too long. I glanced at her, noticing a subtle change in her demeanor, as if a burden had finally lifted. You are stronger than you realize, I said. She returned a hesitant, gentle smile. Your words are kind. As we continued walking, the conversation turned to lighter subjects. Favorite films, ridiculous takeout orders, and hilarious past vacations. Her laughter started to resurface, quietly at first, then with growing ease. Authentic. It was contagious. I found myself smiling just by looking at her. It's nice to hear you laughing once more, I said. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed it. I am nothing, she responded. It feels like ages since I felt anything approaching normal. By the time we reached the last corner leading to her house, she appeared changed, still worn and healing, but no longer shrouded by it. At the foot of her front steps, she looked at me. Thank you, Lucas, she said. I don't think I've ever had anyone appear like you did. You don't need to thank me, I replied sincerely. I'm just glad I could be there. She gazed at me with steady eyes and a quivering voice. For years, I've been surrounded by people, and yet I've never felt this safe. I wasn't sure what to say in response, but I felt it too. There was a subtle pull between us, something quiet but tangible. I gently nodded and whispered softly, Sienna, please reach out to me whenever you need to. As I began to walk away, I felt her gentle hand enfold my wrist. I stopped and looked back at her. Would it be all right if you stayed for lunch? She asked, her voice slightly tentative. I realize it might seem excessive given last night's events. I just don't want to be alone. This hit me squarely. Her honesty and vulnerability, not overdramatic, but genuine. Naturally, I responded with a friendly smile. I'd be delighted to. We found ourselves in the kitchen preparing sandwiches and laughing about my poor tomato slicing skills. We ate together as if we had known each other for a long time, the initial awkwardness fading away. The conversation flowed effortlessly. It was then that I learned she enjoyed gardening, collecting antique postcards, and found mushrooms unappetizing, but enjoyed mushroom soup. The sunshine streaming in through the windows brought about a tranquil epiphany. I didn't want to depart. There was no need for her to say it. I could see it in her expression. She, too, seemed reluctant to let me go. There was nothing romantic about it yet, but there was something genuine between us. A bond was forged from scattered pieces. Hours later, she guided me towards the door as I prepared to depart. Thank you once more, Lucas, she murmured softly. I can't express enough my gratitude for your presence. As promised, I'm here whenever you require. My walk back home brought a tranquility I hadn't experienced in quite some time. My life had always been straightforward and consistent, and it remained so until now. Encountering her amidst her turmoil had already stirred something within me. Pausing before closing my front door, I glanced once more at her dwelling, knowing I would return. The subsequent weeks unfolded in a soothing rhythm that neither of us expected. I'd visit after work to check on her, sometimes merely to greet her, occasionally with a coffee or a small bouquet from the nearby market. Initially, I was unaware of why I did it. It just felt right. I had no intentions of impressing her. I only desired to see her smile, and gradually she did. Initially, when I presented her with daisies and sunflowers, she admired them like they were symbolizing kindness she hadn't experienced in a long time. "No one's ever given me flowers just for the sake of it," she murmured softly, tears welling up. "But now, someone has." Our afternoons often involved relaxing on her porch, sipping coffee or lemonade and observing life unfold. We occasionally conversed about trivial topics like poor films, peculiar takeout orders, and random recollections from our past. At times, we delved into deeper subjects such as regrets, pain, betrayal, and the damage inflicted by trusting someone untrustworthy. Sienna never concealed her continued sorrow. Though her smile had returned, there was still a sense of protection in her gaze. One night, under the spring breeze that swayed through the trees, I noticed her gazing at her wedding ring. "I keep thinking if I remove it, it will be real," she confided. I softly touched her hand, grazing my fingers against hers. "There's no hurry," I clarified. "Healing has no deadline." She gazed at me with soft, questioning eyes. "You're exceptionally skillful at it." The moment I asked, the sentiment easing my anxious breath. Her words struck me harder than anticipated. I hadn't sought her life for anything, but as days passed, I found myself growing more invested. It wasn't about her looks, but she was unquestionably appealing. It was her resilience, her honesty, the blend of strength and vulnerability, how she could provoke laughter one instant and tears the next. However, I also became aware that I needed to protect her heart. One night, beneath her front porch light, after a long walk along the lakeside, there was a prolonged silence. One of those moments that lingered too long for casualness. "Would you like to come inside?" she asked softly. I hesitated, my heart racing. In her eyes, I could discern a struggle. One part yearned for closeness, while another remained fearful. "Not tonight," I said gently. "I don't want you to think I expect anything. I'm here because I care, not because I seek anything from you." A wave of relief washed over her face, yet it masked a deeper emotion. "Something is afraid? You truly are exceptional," she murmured, "and that is what frightens me." I returned a tranquil smile. "Then we'll proceed at your speed." In the following days, subtle shifts emerged. Without uttering a word, she took off her wedding ring and hid it away. She laughed more heartily. Her smiles lingered longer. She even teased me when I messed up a batch of pancakes one morning. One Saturday, she inquired if I could assist her in planting flowers in her garden. Kneeling together in the soil, we chuckled as we attempted to save our gold, and ourselves, from the mess of digging up what we had just planted. Rusty seemed inseparable from you, constantly trailing behind like a miniature specter. "It seems Rusty fancies you over me at the moment." She jokingly dusted off her pants. You leaned back, grinning. "Is it surprising? I provide snacks." Later, we settled on the lawn, leisurely sipping lemonade and appreciating our untidy little gardening endeavor. "Thank you, Lucas," she murmured softly. "For what did I ask? Thank you for making me feel alive again." You gently touched your fingers to hers. "Sienna, you have always been human. You've just been trudging through hell." Our eyes met for an extended moment, longer than was likely appropriate. A hint of warmth and hesitation shone in her gaze. Her walls were only partially lowered. Gradually, I withdrew my hand. I didn't wish to press before she felt ready. During the following week, upon returning home from work, a small package sat awaiting me on my doorstep. A coffee mug with the phrase "Best Neighbor Ever" adorned its interior. Accompanying it was a handwritten letter. "You've accomplished more for me in the past 2 weeks than I can articulate. Thank you for proving that decent people exist." Overwhelmed, I stood there clutching the note, feeling something tranquil resonate within. This transcended friendship. I could no longer dismiss it. I had feelings for her. It had been a long time since I let myself feel anything similar, post my heart shattering years ago. Yet, I knew she wasn't ready to fully unveil herself, not just yet. The following evening found us nestled on the couch, revisiting old Seinfeld episodes. Rusty lay peacefully sandwiched between us, dozing gently. Sienna stretched and placed her head on my shoulder. "Is this all right?" she questioned softly. "Absolutely," I responded immediately. "Whatever suits you best." Her voice trembled slightly. "I'm uncertain of where this is going, Lucas, but I don't want you to depart." I embraced her protectively instead of claiming her. "I'm not leaving," I said. In that serene instant, there was a shift between us. We were no longer mere individuals seeking solace in each other. We were evolving into something new, tender, and sincere. That night, I remained with her for a while longer, holding her close as the TV hummed softly in the background. Our dialogue became mere nonsense. When I eventually departed, she stood by the door, watching me walk away with warm, hesitant eyes. I couldn't alleviate her turmoil. I knew that. But I could show her gently and cautiously what it means when someone truly cares. As I strolled under a starry sky later, I found myself smiling. For the first time in years, I felt as if a good beginning was imminent. A week later, I arrived at her house with my heart pounding, holding 2 airplane tickets in hand. Spent several days deliberating if it was hasty or risky. In the long run, I opted for my gut feeling. Sienna required a respite from her everyday grind as something novel and distant from its weight. She welcomed the door with a weary yet luminous grin that still managed to illuminate the space. "Hey," she responded, tilting her head. "What's this strange expression?" I displayed the envelope. "Well, it may appear absurd, but I procured us tickets to San Diego for only a week. There is no obligation, just sunlight and a fresh outlook." She scrutinized me in disbelief. "Are you genuinely serious? Totally serious?" I affirmed with a nod. "I grasp that you're still healing. Nevertheless, occasionally a new location enables you to breathe again." She seemed about to reject, but her expression transformed. A slow, authentic smile emerged. "You're infuriating, Lucas. I'll go for it." I was teasing. She genuinely laughed, and the room brightened. "Yes," she said. The next morning, we embarked on our flight. Our communication was sparse, yet the silence felt easy, as if there was no need for words to fill the void. Upon landing in California, the air enveloped us like a cozy blanket. Sienna inhaled deeply and closed her eyes. "This is wonderful," she whispered. We checked into a quaint boutique hotel on the outskirts of town, boasting views of mountains and swaying palm trees. Our first complete day was spent browsing local shops, visiting an antiquated bookstore, and sipping iced lattes at a sidewalk eatery. I found myself unable to look away when she wasn't looking, captivated by the sparkle in her eyes as she took in desert blooms, and the way her lips curled up at funny postcards. That night, we dined under twinkling lights at a cozy cafe nestled among palm trees and adobe walls. The food was tasty, but I barely registered it. My gaze remained fixed on her, noticing her newfound serenity, a tranquility I hadn't observed before. Later, under the starlit sky, as she returned to the hotel, she halted mid-stride, looking at me with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered gently. You were right. I really needed this. You deserve it, I replied sincerely. That week exceeded our expectations, turning into a dreamlike experience. Our mornings were spent wandering the desert trails, accompanied only by the wind and our quiet footsteps. Afternoons saw us unwinding by the pool with cold beverages, reading, or engaging in stimulating conversation under the shade. On one occasion, I noticed her watching the scenery, a tranquility on her face that I had not seen before. I never thought I'd feel serene again, she whispered softly, but you made it possible, Lucas. This time, she didn't pull away when I reached for her hand. Each night, we either explored new restaurants or ordered takeout and dined on the balcony. The sunset behind the mountains had become our peaceful ritual, and an unspoken change was occurring between us. A casual friendship had blossomed into something more profound. Though we hadn't spoken it aloud, we both sensed it. On day 6, we rented bikes and pedaled through the winding paths of the botanical garden filled with color and sunlight. Sienna halted at a bed of yellow wildflowers. She remained still and gazed. My mother loved these, she murmured softly. She used to tell me that beauty can be found even in the toughest circumstances. I moved nearer and tenderly touched her shoulder. You make her proud. Sienna offered a sad smile. I believe she would be, Lucas. Her words struck home. I had finally found someone who truly saw me, not just the polished version or the perfect wife, but the real me. I found myself wanting to confess my love for her at that moment, but held it back due to less than optimal timing and her ongoing recovery. I didn't want to hasten something that was growing so sincerely. As our last night in San Diego approached, we chose to walk along the resort's edge where desert met mountains. The sky was a breathtaking blend of fading orange and gold, casting distant peaks in light. We walked for a while without speaking until Sienna stopped and faced me. I had been apprehensive about returning home, she admitted, but for the first time in years, I feel ready. Thanks to you, I softly took hold of her hands. Sienna, you've accomplished it. I was honored to walk with you on this journey. Her voice barely above a whisper. I am still fearful, Lucas. I'm afraid to trust again. I'm worried you might leave. I gently traced my thumb across the back of her hand. She didn't plan to depart anywhere, and for the first time, she moved closer and planted a kiss on me. It wasn't an emergency or fiery. Instead, it was gentle, deliberate, brimming with peaceful anticipation. Afterward, we remained silent, words unnecessary. Underneath the stars, interlocked hands, we both acknowledged that our voyage had reshaped everything. The following morning, we silently packed up, not with a sense of weight or sadness. Instead, it was tranquil, steady, as if we knew it wasn't an ending but a fresh start. Sienna rested her head on my shoulder while we waited to board the plane. Lucas, she whispered, yes, thank you for helping me recover a piece of myself I believed was lost. I kissed the top of her head. It's just the beginning. I smiled as the plane ascended. I knew what lay ahead and was prepared. We were both ready. Upon landing and navigating through the modest airport back home, something in Sienna altered. The burden she once bore was now lighter. Her strides weren't hasty, they weren't cautious either. A tranquility enveloped her I hadn't witnessed earlier. The journey home was relatively quiet, yet the silence between us felt reassuring, effortless. Upon arrival, Rusty welcomed us as if we had been absent a year. He dashed down the hallway, nearly tripping Sienna with his enthusiasm. She chuckled, falling to her knees to embrace him. And for the first time, I recognized how charming her laughter was when it was unshackled, genuine, and carefree. In the ensuing weeks, life adopted a fresh rhythm. We continued our evening strolls, indulged in mediocre takeout, and spent evenings watching old sitcoms or just lying on the porch under the soothing silence. However, there was a change now. There was intimacy, a sense of calm and understanding. We didn't need to articulate it. It was implicit. Neither of us wished to forfeit what we were slowly amassing. One night, as we traversed our usual lakeside path, she tenderly placed her hand in mine. Without delay, a single action spoke louder than words ever could. We found ourselves on our preferred bench with the scenic water view. The sky was adorned with hues of pinks and intense oranges, while the wind provided a soothing touch to our skin. Sienna released a deep, relaxed sigh, a sound that echoed relief. "I didn't anticipate feeling whole once more," she whispered softly. "You were never fractured," I replied. She tightened her grip on my hand. "You were merely wounded. You have no clue about the impact you've had on me, Lucas." I don't know how to express gratitude. You don't need to. I'd been pondering this for quite some time. I'd rehearsed it countless times, envisioning every potential outcome. And then I realized it was the right moment. I rose gradually and faced her. Her expression was a mix of bewilderment and curiosity. I reached into my jacket and produced the small velvet box I had been holding. Since we came back from San Diego, her eyes widened instantly upon seeing it. "Sienna," I began, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Neither of us anticipated this or sought it out. But what we uncovered is genuine." I paused, scrutinizing her gaze. "You've made me believe in love once more. You've demonstrated the essence of caring without keeping tabs to maintain balance, even during turbulent and uncertain times." "I can hardly conceive my life without you in it," she replied. I opened the package and found a modest, beautiful diamond ring within. "Will you become my wife?" Sienna looked down at the ring and then back at me. Her hands trembled as she cautiously brought them to her mouth, and tears filled her eyes. "I'm at a loss for words," she said, her voice quivering. "Then express your feelings," I gently suggested. She shook her head, laughing through her tears. "You caught me completely off guard." I smiled, feeling my heart race. After 15 years, Sienna wiped away tears, saying, "It's been 15 years, Lucas." For those long years, I felt insignificant in a life spent giving everything to someone indifferent. I truly thought I would never be enough for anyone again. "But you crossed the street and restored my life," she said, her touch comforting and assertive. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Yes, Lucas, I will marry you." I placed the ring on her finger as tears streamed down her face. Her radiant, vibrant, and full of life smile brightened the fading day. We held each other tight, neither wanting to let go. Her head rested on my chest, and for the first time in a long while, both of us felt completely secure. 6 months later, we stood by the lake where I had proposed, exchanging vows in a simple private ceremony. The same bench where I had asked her to be mine now served as a silent testament to our new start. In a jubilant procession, our goofy golden retriever, Rusty, led the way down the aisle as our ring bearer, his tail thumping vigorously. Surrounded by close friends and relatives, Sienna and I committed ourselves to each other under the tranquil Virginia sky. I vowed to cherish her on both good and bad days. Show patience during healing and remain steadfast in your presence. Tears trickled down her face as she smiled through them. I pledged to let myself be loved. Her voice was firm yet passionate. "Trust that this love is real and never forget, you rescued me when I couldn't save myself." Once the officiant declared us husband and wife, I kissed her passionately right there beneath the expansive blue sky, surrounded by everyone who mattered. Our life together wasn't flawless. It had challenging days, Nights filled with fear, moments when old wounds were reopened. Yet, we never faced any of it alone again. We held hands through the storm. We journeyed together, transformed our house into a refuge of joy, light, and new beginnings after taking in another rescued dog. Evenings often found us on the porch with Rusty snoozing at our feet, while the lake shimmered under the setting sun. Sienna would press her head against my shoulder, whispering, "I never thought this was possible for me." Each time, I'd reply with the same sentiment: "You deserve every moment of it." Our tale wasn't perfect, derived from patience, compassion, and hope amidst difficulties, choosing each other despite easier alternatives. That was our story, and everything unfolded as expected,